So the obvious question becomes this, right? Because I don't think there's such a thing in general as like a bad caller, a good call. Like the question, it's like football managers. It's like, dude, the best football manager ever for his own team might be wrong in 5 years from now. Maybe the personnel changes, the style of football changes. But if you put him into a different team, maybe he'd be awesome. Like what style does he have? What personnel does he have? So my question would be this, is did you try to do something different with how you IGL'd that team? Was that was that how Nexa normally IGLs, or was there something different how you worked in G2?
I think when I came to G2, like Malek was in charge of the project. So
and he's a very hands-on coach as far as I know. Right?
Yeah.
In depth,
so,
right?
Yeah, I can say a lot of things I've learned. Like the way I think about the game and like the approach in general has been like very highly influenced by Malek, and like I got a lot of things that I still use to this day from him. I think he is a hell of a coach. Like he's like a really, really good coach. He has an insane brain for the game, like understanding, creating strats, finding gaps, like all of these things. He is like the best I've worked with. I think we just had like some problems on like the human side between like not just with me but like with other players as well. But yeah, like at the beginning, before we had Nico, I think we played a lot of structure. I think my biggest problem there was I came into a team where Jack spoke zero English, so I could not really play. And he was my entry fragger, so every time I would try to like speak with him, he just like replies in French. He doesn't know like anything, or Kenny is like translating for him, and like we're like in the middle of the game. Kenny's like translating what I want like to him, and then he's like going. So basically, we created a lot of structure where everything was pretty much scripted. So we would call every default by name, every like play, every like room taking by name. So everything would be really scripted. So we played
so it made it very simple to say.
Yeah. To help Jax. So we played like this for like the first like 7-8 months of G2, and it was fine. But I think with this style where people don't really get to make their own decisions and like really react on the fly, but they're like always waiting and like waiting for me to tell them, oh, now go do this, oh, now go do this, or you go do this now, you fake now, you do this, blah blah blah, and not really people understanding it like, okay, now I have to fake, and already making this decision by themselves. We would like always lose 5-10 seconds until, okay, I understand the picture now you go do this, and then the timing's already gone. So I think that was like a really big issue. And the problem was also that Jax didn't really like learn English. Like, we gave him like a year, he had some lessons, but like honestly, it didn't really improve. So it was still very, very difficult for us like to communicate in general. Like Jax is an awesome guy. Like he's like very good for the vibes, like energy. He does a lot of things really, really well, especially on LAN. He's like never tilted. He's never bring anyone down. He's like hyping everyone a lot. But like just the fact that he didn't speak English and we're like in an international team was like a really big hit, especially for me. Yeah. So yeah, back then it was like a lot of things were scripted, and then we decided to bring in Nico. So when we brought Nico, like I don't really have, let's say, like a set style that I really love to call, but I will like try to use my players, the players that I have, to like play to their strengths, let's say. Like I don't think, basically what you just said, I don't think there is like one specific style that works for every single team. I think it just has to be like the right combination of people working together if you want to create like, the best team that you can. So I think with Nico, we went a lot more to the loose side where, like the way I envisioned the game, like I cannot have, let's say, more than two playmakers in the same team. So I would give like freedom to Nico and Hunter, and they would have like freedom to do the moves, the calls, like even to overcall me at some point if they hear some steps or have some really precise info. But they would basically be the playmaker, while the other three would be, let's say, soldiers who would have more like support scripted roles to help the others succeed in like their jobs in map control, in clutching, and like executes, whatever. So that's basically how we played that. Before Nico came, like I was using Kenny as like one of my playmakers, but I think once we went online, Kenny had a lot of like struggles mentally. Yeah, but I think he was struggling a lot mentally, and I was actually I was begging G2 to get us like a mental performance coach, a psychologist, but they refused to do it. I think Malik refused to get one. It's also like one of the issues that we had. So yeah, like Kenny it's like one of my biggest regret is actually not standing up to like Malik and actually telling him to
right, I see what you mean, because if people aren't thinking about it, one thing people forget about that lineup is a lot of people forget that there was overlap between Kenny S and Nico. Like, if you could have gotten Kenny S back really good, dude, that lineup would have been fire.
Yeah.
Kenny S obviously had to get phased out, didn't he? Like, it was like only a few months, wasn't it?
Yeah,
right.
Like Kenny was struggling a lot, and I think he was like really burned out, and it was the same for myself as well. And we should have just went on a break, took some time off, because honestly, it was like a very difficult period. I think we played, we had so many boot camps. We played.
There's a million games online.
Online. It was really difficult. We were also practicing 5 to 6 days per week. We were practicing from 10 to 7, 8 p.m. plus doing extra work, extra time. It was a lot. Like, we put in a lot of hours in the game, and back then, I think if it was just about grinding the game, it would have been fine. But I think the biggest issue we had is since Malik and the management was in charge, I feel responsible for not standing up to them, because I knew that some of the things were done wrong, and I should have been the one as the in-game leader there to actually stand up and say that we're not doing things right, we're not going in the right direction. Basically, we try to make Kenny into the vice. So every time we rewatch his games, we watch device games. Yeah, Kenny, you need to play like this. Kenny, you need to play like this. You need to do this. You look how device is playing. You need to play passive, play reaction, play smart. But that's just not Kenny.
Yes,
that's not Kenny. Kenny is the guy who feels the game. He goes for the play because he feels it, and he just takes over. And the more we were trying to force him into being something that he's not, the worse he was feeling, the less will he had to play the game, because he didn't really feel like he could play the way he wanted to play the game itself. And then he went into burnout, and then it was just downhill from that point. And I think during that period, something similar happened to me, where Astralis was undisputedly #1 team back then, winning absolutely everything. They were even good when the online era started. So Malik was all the time telling me, yeah, you need to be more like Glaive. You need to be like Glaive. Watch what Glaive is doing. Watch how Glaive is calling. Try to understand why Glaive is calling this, why he's calling that. And they were also telling me, yeah, Shocks and Smiths, they were doing it like this. They were doing it like this. And I think my problem was that even though they were telling me these things, I didn't really understand it. I didn't understand what a lot of these things mean. And even to this day, I can say that I don't doubt my skills as an in-game leader when it comes to the in-game part. I know I can make the right call. I can do the good read. I know I understand the game at a really high level, but it's this other things that come with the leadership part, where you're in a group of people, you need to lead a group of people, understand how to speak with them, how to have this authority. I think this is the part that I was lacking most, and that still to this day is the biggest downside to me being an in-game leader. And I think I never really had an in-game leader myself, so there was no real in-game leaders that I could look up to and learn from and see how they do things and try to I don't know, just see and learn basically. So you can say I'm mostly self-taught, and it's not that great. I do know some things, but leading a group of people is it's still I don't know, my personality itself is I'm kind of introverted. I was always afraid of conflict. I didn't really come up to players and say, hey bro, I think you're doing this wrong, because I didn't want to create bad vibes or be negative and stuff. So I think this was my biggest downside as an in-game leader, and also why it didn't really work as me being an in-game leader, especially with some of the bigger names. But I think people never really had anything against me calling or understanding the game, and no one really complained ever about this. It was just this leadership part of it, which is Like, let's be fair, it's a really huge
It's
part.
a big part, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge part, and that's the part I could never really get down, you know. And now, as I said, I want to be a player, and hopefully I get to play under like someone else as an in-game leader, and actually see if like things are, basically see how others do things and try to learn from it, and then maybe like somewhere like along the line, like down the road, I go back to the role once
Sure.
I'm more experienced in it.
Right, there's a lot
Like,
there. Like,
yeah.
First of all, one thing that does crack me up is that story you told me it said about Jax. Because I'm just thinking now, like, remember, right, in that scenario, think about it, if you're a fan, that means Nexa would call something, and then Jax would be like, and then Kenny S would have to be like, come see and then he says, like, it's like, the fucking, first of all, it's 15 seconds off the clock now, and then secondly, you know, all the fans watching don't know we're doing this. They're just judging my call, thinking I'm shit calling, the fuck, like, so that's already a bit of a nightmare, it sounds like, right there. And then also, if people don't know, what you're saying makes perfect sense, though, because in the modern day, like, the famous French players, this is the difference. The famous ones, obviously, have been to a million after parties and had girlfriends that they spoke to in English. Jax's problem is, because he was older and he didn't come to the scene until actually around the time you were going to the big lands, the 2019 era. Because of that, he never really got the chance to. Like, when I would go to, like, after an event in the hotel, he was one of the French ones who, even if you were in their group, he would just talk to the other French person. You know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't like go out of his way to try and like talk to people and be out. So I can tell you, it's a mixture of he was a bit introverted and he just, English wasn't his thing. So it makes perfect sense that would be the issue. And then the other thing is, I thought you made a very shrewd point, though, where you actually said that you yourself had never had a proper IGL. To me, I actually think the analogy here is like the concept of having a father, which is if someone out there, by the way, like if I saw someone's life and I was like, oh, he's not a very good father, is he? He doesn't, like, you know, give love to his children or instruct. But if I found out he never had a dad himself, suddenly, actually, maybe he's doing a good job. Or what is it? Maybe he never had an example to copy. Maybe he's figured some things out. Maybe he's doing a better job than his non-existent dad did. So I would say the same thing for IGL. Like, I've made this point before, but a lot of people miss it. Dude, almost every all-time great IGL themselves was under another all-time great IGL. Like he knows this. Dude, there is no Carrigan and Tapson if fucking God B doesn't exist. Like, Carrigan probably wouldn't even try being an IGL if he didn't play with God B. If people don't know, people like Glaive played themselves under people like Flirtation, people like that back in the day, and then MSL was under Glaive. Like, mate, it's like there's a chain for real. And the best case, like I say, is you just have an example to look at yourself. So then you get a sense of, right, this is how you lead, this is how you design the player book, all that. Because the other thing I'd throw in as well is, though, I do think it's not a killer, though. Like, it doesn't have to, like, kill the idea you can be an IGL next. It's just in your particular case. I would say for you, it's probably more like whoever your coach is needs to have that, like, the leadership of men aspect. Yeah. I think if you balance it like that, it can work out. Because, by the way, there are some people who, this is why I had to change my terminology. I even said the same thing to MSL back in the day. I was like, dude, your problem really is that we call the role in-game leader, and you're just not really like a people person. You're not great at winning people over. I said, if we just call it like in CS 1.6, we used to say tactician. If we just say like your job is tactics, you're killing it, mate. You're doing a 10 out of 10. What more can I ask? But I even remember telling him, if I were you, mate, I would make sure whoever your coach is, I mean, I guess he had the same guy you did, Roger. I would say I'd make sure it's someone who has that sort of attitude where they can bring people together, they can make people buy into this. You can offset it, I think. I think it's not a death sentence, you know.
Yeah, it's actually true, because the reason why it worked much better in G2 is because Malek was exactly that type of person. Like, yeah, he had really great like leadership qualities. He knew how to behave and speak to a group. He was also really good at holding everyone accountable and, like, you know, really like being this like tough guy, being on everyone's back, making sure we're doing the things that we don't really like to do. Whereas like in OG, like Ruga, he's kind of like me. Like, he is like nice to everyone. Like, we're both like nice, like friends with everyone, you know, and there was like no real authority in the team, you know. And I tried to force myself to do it, and it was like the period where I was doing it for a couple of months, and then I had to go on a break because my mental was absolutely broken, because I was like really feeling bad. I started being like also like toxic to people at like times, because I was just trying to, you know, I was trying to help them better, like be better and like become better players and like grind more and work more, but I didn't really know how to express myself in like the best possible way. So sometimes it came off as just like, you know, me being annoying or me being toxic, and like it was like creating like bad vibes in the team and stuff like that.
Sure. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.